evidence that teams were playing by the early 1870s, but things really took off when Jotham Potter came as a faculty member, a young new graduate from Princeton, who had actually worked with a collegiate group of similar universities to establish football rules for American football in 1876. And when he came to Lawrenceville as a math and science teacher, he introduced that form of football to Laurentians, and they embraced it wholeheartedly. And we began to play a sort of rugby-style football at that point.
It was my first year here in the 9th grade. There was 11-man as well as 8-man. We practiced 6 days a week. It wasn't 3 days and this and that. It was a commitment. We lifted weights. Not everybody. I was probably the only one that really did a lot after the lights were out.
While they were building the original houses around the circle, they rented out Davis House, which was down the road. And the first documented house football game was between Davis and Hamel. And the first champions were actually Hamel House.
I think house football is a really unique and meaningful experience for the boys. It provides physical challenge to the boys. It's kind of scary to collide with another guy full speed.
It's sportsmanship, and it's about learning something that most of these kids have never done before. At least when I was coaching Dickinson, I would say the majority of my kids had never played football before and probably never should again. But boy, did we have fun.
Well, I grew up on an island, Jupiter Island in Florida. So when I came to Lawrenceville, I'd never played football or really almost seen a football game except on TV. And so at Griswold, we had house football. And for the first time, I put on pads, but I was sort of nervous because I'd never done this. I had no experience with this, but it was a great experience. It was very athletic, and I loved it.
How many places can you go as a, half-ass athlete and be playing these sports in your sophomore and junior years?
Typically that last game you play is the last time you're ever going to play football exactly like that. You're not going to ever dress up with 12 guys beating each other up again, unlike tennis and golf. So after that, for us, there was no college football for John or for me. And that's why it's stuck in our minds.
To have the option of playing house football, it's hard to recreate full contact football, and that's part of the magic of it, is that the kids are gaining an experience that they really cannot find elsewhere.
Lawrenceville is an international school and has a lot of students who aren't exposed to football when they're growing up, so obviously that they would gravitate to the house league often. The ability for everybody to come together and bond over this one particular and peculiarly American sport was really special.
Especially for new students to the house, whether they're returning, second formers who are coming into the circle or students new to the school. It helps integrate them into the house that much faster. It gives them an identity. It's great for a kid who's not athletic to be on a house team because he's representing his house. So he's I think, in many ways on the same level as a varsity athlete.
I think house football really brings a house together in meaningful ways that is really good for the overall community of the school. So you put those two things together and you've got kids overcoming challenge and facing fears and probably by no coincidence also bonding.
You know, I don't care where you came from or who you are, what your background is, all of a sudden you're out on green field and you form a special bond. And, you know, you've all heard the old saying in football, the three most important words are team, team, team. But in house football, the three most important words I always said was house, house, and house. And the trust that is built out on that field and feeling accountable for what you're doing out there, they sense that. I think that's part of it.
They call it Circle House Football, and at the Lawrenceville School in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, they've been playing it for 100 years now. It's intramural football, tackle football. 6 of the school's sophomore and junior resident houses, which are arranged in a circle on campus, field house teams each fall. Then they battle it out in a 5-game season. It's house against house, and at stake, well, bragging rights. Every year, the house football tradition stays put. For 100 years, football has been about both sportsmanship and friendship at Lawrenceville.
I remember the first time I caught a touchdown pass and ran for a touchdown. That was a feeling of rare exaltation. I never really had to ever have that feeling again. To have had it once was enough. Now you watch pro or college football and you watch some kid break loose, you know, catch the ball behind a defender, run for a touchdown. The feeling comes back. You just flash back to it, that moment of triumph.
I was offensive captain, starting fullback, starting middle linebacker. I punted, I kicked off, held for the point after. Yeah, I know. Greenberg was like, yeah, you need someone to do it. It's you. So I scored the only touchdown in the game. And it was a play I never really ran. It was like an off-tackle thing. I remember going in and holding my hand up. I was like, I got it. It was our only score. So that's my high school football moment.
Jim Brown was our coach, who was just an exceptional guy. He had a very refined sense of what a team sport was and how you conduct yourself on a team sport and how you put the pieces together in order to succeed. And he was, and I have very good memories of how he dealt with us on that in the house football context.
D.D. Wicks, who was coach of the hockey team and a very competitive guy who really wanted to field good football teams. And
he wanted to win. That was
definitely it was play to win.
Play to win.
There was a lot of practicing, and there was a lot of chalkboard type work upstairs in between games. He had plays that he worked on.
Jim had a Korean quarterback, and he starts calling his signals in Korean. And my guys were the one.
And the kid looked at him and he said, "What do you want, coach? Hang time or distance?" This is a little 15-year-old kid that probably never punted before or punted again. He's, "What do you want, coach? Hang time or distance?"
So a few weeks later, Mr. Chivers was watching the Kennedy versus Hamill game, and as he was standing on the sidelines, the same student who had broken his leg actually tackled a player so close to the sidelines that they ran into Mr. Chivers, who again was injured and broke his crutch to boot. So as a result, the two houses took the crutch and decided to make that the trophy between the two houses.
One of my favorites was with my fullback, Erhan Benestini, who went to Johns Hopkins and ended up going in the Army, Special Forces. And when he was over in Afghanistan, he wrote a note back before the Crutch game to the team saying, "You tell those guys, Coach, go out there and play hard. Those are my best days of my life was out playing for Hamill in the Crutch game." And they did win that game.
Come on back. Here we go. 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 Keep on.
I'd like to see this tradition go on for a long time. I think many of us would. But we'll see where the world takes us. There are, I would say, more parents than kids who are worried about the physical implications. And that's probably normal. I would say over the last 5 years, the participation has gone way down to the point where last year we had to combine 2 teams.
I think we had 10 kids on the Kennedy team this year. Any given week, we probably had 8 who were healthy and able to play, but the group we began with is the group we finished with. It was that same group of 10 with a little bit of a revolving door on injuries and whatnot.
The tackling in house football, sometimes it looks more like a rodeo than a football game. And lots of times in house football, kids are jumping on other kids' backs and trying to pull them down. So the hitting is not that ferocious. And I've really toned down the amount of hitting we do in practice in the drills. In the old days, maybe we'd toughen them up by having them run directly into each other more. But now with concussions and head injuries, the drills are different.
The house system really is so much at the heart of what makes Lawrenceville what it is. It sets up these little small communities that give people a certain amount of acceptance because you're part of a family. A lot of what wins kids a kind of respect is that they go out there and they try, that they make the effort, and the effort really, really counts. You don't have to be a star.
And it means a lot to the boys in the house, whether they play house football or not. They come out to the game and watch if they're not playing, and they really enjoy it.
We don't give kids very many opportunities these days to do something that they are honestly uncertain as to whether they're going to succeed at. And house football is different than that. I think they really don't know when they go in, could I ever actually tackle someone in a game? Would I ever be able to do that? I really don't know. And when they do make that first tackle of someone, that's a really special moment for them.
I think that house football is one of the most central and unique experiences to this school that no other school can duplicate. It is something that is solely and wholly Lawrenceville's, and I think it's something that absolutely deserves to be preserved and cherished for posterity.
I would say house football particularly was easily as important in my own character formation, if I can call it that, as a teenager, as what happened in the classrooms.